Alice, tomorrow I'm going to spend the next hour trying to get you to grunt and nod about games you can't talk about.
All right.
It's like 4 stars. All right, great, great.
Yeah.
South Park, 4 stars. Everyone go buy it if you're a fan of the genre. You can't talk about South Park, right? You're not
I
allowed
can't
to.
even I can't even talk about South Park until Tuesday. Apparently, they're saving that one for a launch day embargo, which seems ill-conceived, but whatever.
I sure saw. Let's call them unnamed games writers uh, doing their best to skirt around wanting to talk about that game. If you follow certain games writers that might be playing that game, though.
Yeah. There is definitely no shortage of people trying to find ways to talk about South Park, which I don't blame them. There are things in South Park that are very tempting to want to talk about, but
So
I'm not.
at the very least, you can at least say there's going to be a lot to talk about with that game when it comes out, one way or the other.
Oh yes, there are going to be some words about that game for a variety of different reasons. It's really something else, and I'll leave it at that.
Oh, I'm glad it exists. I'm glad it's coming out. We've talked, about that game being a sort of weird. Well, it's going to be a thing, and I'm just glad it's a thing. And given all that THQ business that was so ugly and so weird, I'm just glad. Hey, next Tuesday, for better or worse, people are going to be able to play that game, and it is one of those that I have to play regardless. It's just one of those games, and sometimes some of those games come along, and you have to know, and you have to know yourself. I thought Thief was going to be one of those, and now I've successfully made it through a week without trying Thief, and I don't think I need to try Thief.
Join the conversation, Patrick. Come on, join the conversation.
I might try it at some point, but I've just got other things. I got other things on my plate. Did you play anything else this week, or are you all embargoed up?
Let's see. What did I actually play this week? I'm embargoed up on stuff that I saw yesterday at an event. I am embargoed on South Park, so I can't talk about that. I have
Yep.
played some more Rambo, but I don't think we need to say much more about Rambo at this point. We know that Rambo is kind of a piece of shit, so we can leave that at that.
Why did you play more of it?
I don't know. I'm thinking I might review it.
Yes.
I'm already like 2/3 of the way through the game, so I figured I might as well just finish it, right? But then South Park came along, and I was like, oh, well, I'd much rather be playing this. So I went ahead and played more of that instead of more Rambo. So I don't know. I still might review Rambo. We'll see.
Yeah, I'd read 800 words by you trying to encapsulate what but so I only watched you play it. I watched a little bit of the quick look. Somehow Giant Bomb became the premier place for coverage of this crappy Rambo game. All of a
Whoops.
sudden, all at once. But for me, when I've reviewed games, and you do this more, you review far more games than I do, but I've always found that the most difficult games to review are the mediocre ones.
Yes, that is absolutely true. Because a game that you truly hate, the words flow. You know exactly what you want to say because you know all the reasons that you hate it. A game that is just middling to not that interesting to kind of bad, but fuck it, whatever, is not that much fun or nor not that exciting to write about. Thief, for me, in a lot of ways, was that kind of game because it's not horribly broken, it's not god awful, it's just really dull. And that is, in writing about a really dull game and finding interesting things to say about a game that's super boring is maybe the worst thing you have to do as a writer or as a critic, really.
But I do find that it's an incredibly useful exercise because it is the most challenging type of review. I find it is finding ways to articulate that sort of stretches you in a certain way that just doesn't happen as much when it's very clear why a game is doing certain things well or very clear why. I mean, bad reviews are the easiest, right? Like
Yeah.
those are the most simple because things are just broken or don't work. Like sometimes when a game is truly exceptional, it's trying to capture what it does different can be difficult because maybe it hasn't happened in a game before. And then when you get into middle of the road, it's just your enthusiasm for even writing about it has slightly waned. And at least in Thief's case, it was a AAA big game that people were very interested in. So at least you have a motivating factor there of like people do want to know what's going on with this game.
Yeah.
But that's not true of every mediocre game.
You still have to find a way to articulate the written equivalent of a dismissive wanking motion and make it interesting. You know, like you can't just say, "Oh, this game's really boring. Who cares?" Because that's not a review. That's not interesting to people.
We can't all be Dan Reichert.
No, no. I mean, to be fair, he is the master of writing the dismissive wanking motion review when he wants to. But
and also just writing books. I don't know where the guy finds the time. Like, regardless of quality, the dude is a content machine. Because he has another book that just came out, the wrestling one.
Yeah. To be fair, both Air Force Gator books are like maybe 100 pages. And that wrestling book he just put out was a very short ebook he sold for like $3 that was like, you know, several thousand words, was not a very long thing. So I think he's finding time by writing short books. But to be fair, they're all pretty good.
I like that idea.
Huh. Dan Reichert is a hell of an author. And apparently that Curtain Call book is doing real well for him. So good for him.
Interesting. I guess when I hear ebook, I think length.
Yeah.
But I guess that's not true, right? Like, you know, Amazon Publishing, which is, you know, what he's using, you can kind of just put out whatever you want.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, nothing else of note that you played this week?
The one thing I had meant to talk about on Monday, but during our conversation with Kara Ellison, it did not really come up, is that the embargo came up on that Wolfenstein build that I was able to play. Right. So they actually let me play the first, like, 2.5 hours of that game. Like, they just sat me down in front of it and was like, here is a long demo. Go play. There is no intro. We're not going to talk to you about it. Just do what you want to do.
And that's the best kind of demo. Absolutely
those are the best
kind of
demos. Like, that shows that you have some confidence in the product. You don't need to sit there and try and hold my hand through it. Either that or you're just so checked out of your job that you just literally don't care what the press thinks about it, so you're like, fuck it, whatever. But in this case, I don't think that's that. So I played through the opening levels and sections of that game. I did not realize, and I probably should have done my research on this, and that's my fault, that Starbreeze guys, the studio they had put together following...
Machine Gun Games or Machine
It's just Machine Games, I think.
Machine Gun Games is a more hilarious studio title, though.
That is a really good name, but this is just Machine Games. So it's a bunch of people that worked on Chronicles of Riddick and the first Darkness game that eventually left Starbreeze to form their own thing. And
they're owned straight up by ZeniMax. Like, they got bought like really early on before they had announced any projects.
And, you know, so other than, you know, it was going to be alternate history, zombie or Nazi shooting, I kind of didn't really know what to expect out of it, and I was surprised to learn that it is actually pretty good. They start you out in the game like you're in the middle of a sort of Normandy-style invasion that obviously is not Normandy because there are crazy retro-futuristic Nazi jet fighters and other things going on, and it's also 1946. There are all these like giant Nazi mechs, like, you know, wandering around. They're, you know, the Nazi robot dogs that are trying to kill you, and it's this really intense action sequence that lands you on the shores of this beach, and you have to like try and storm this castle that is being run by this, you know, Nazi overlord. And it is really good at making like just keeping the action going at all times. Like there is a constant flow of bad guys at all times. The pace is really quick, but in like a good way, and the shooting has a good feel to it, which is nice. But the most interesting thing to me was that it is actually trying to tell kind of a story. Like, it's not just, you know, America has been overthrown and the world's been overthrown by Nazis, so go kill them. Mm-hmm. Like the B.J. Blazkowicz character, like they spend a long time fleshing him out.
Really,
surprisingly,
I love the commitment to, like, if they want to do a game that has like more story and some more depth to it, you know, creating a big budget, you know, Wolfenstein, Serious Sam type game, like, isn't going to fly these days. And that they didn't change his name. I love that. I really, really love that, because if they changed the name, then they would be crucified. But by not changing the name, they have to deal with someone called BJ.
Yeah.
And that is just, it's a hilarious name that to try and say with a straight face. But it seems like is the tone 100% serious? It can't be, because it's a game about future world taking over Nazis.
It's the closest I can draw to it is that it has that Quentin Tarantino flair to it in the sense that
Oh.
it's sort of like God, I'm trying to think the best way to it's not quite Grindhouse. It feels like modern take on Grindhouse, which is to say that it's sort of like trying to play with the tropes of old style Grindhouse while making it more modern and snappy for current audiences. And it's they didn't show a ton of the story, but I mean the game basically once you're through that initial wave, Blazkowicz is in a coma, or like basically like in a waking coma for like 14 years in some asylum in Poland. And then one day the Nazis come storming in and just start murdering all the patients. And then you wake up and it's like, okay, cool. Now I need to go find the resistance because I did not realize that the entire world had been taken over by Nazis. Holy shit. And there's some good dialogue in there. Like the evil Nazis that they pull out are more than just like dudes yelling Zig Heil a lot. Like they are weird characters. Like there's a woman that they show in the last trailer, this like a high-ranking Nazi official who you meet up with on a train, who like pulls you to sit down with her and then makes you look at all these different pictures so she can decide if you're of pure race or not, and then just keeps threatening to shoot you in the head if you don't play her game. And she
Hmm.
has this like little boy toy Nazi guy who is like this kind of a fet dandy, but is like obviously her man friend, and there is this there's a lot of characterization going on, which is surprising for a game that all I remember about old Wolfenstein is Mecha Hitler and and just shooting a lot of Nazis. So they are
Is,
trying to flesh that stuff out a lot more.
is it possible that this game feels like what we were talking about when we discovered on the morning show that Rambo was coming out, and that one of the things that makes uh, 80s action movies work is that while when describing it and explaining it, it sounds patently ridiculous, but that part of the reason it works in the game is that it doesn't adopt like the modern like fourth wall breaking, poking you in the eye about what's happening. It takes its ridiculous material extremely seriously in a way that doesn't take away from some of the hokiness,
Yes,
but makes it really endearing. Like,
it is.
does it seem like that? It kind of
It
sounds
is.
like that's what you're describing.
It is committed to its world. It does not wink and nod a whole bunch about that stuff. It definitely it definitely is trying to have a little fun with it, but it is not trying to make the audience go, look how crazy this all is, eh? Like there's a scene early on where you get some Nazi commandant tied up in a basement, and then literally, you are just threatening him to saw his head off with a chainsaw. Like they've shown that in the trailer as well. And the dialogue sequence that builds up between those two is, it's pretty good. Like there's a good little rapport between the actors, and it's amusing, but at the same time, it's not like going for over the top jokes. It's not trying to be, uproariously hilarious. It's taking its plot relatively seriously for how insane and ridiculous everything going on around it is.
Well, that sounds more interesting than what came across in. Brad and I checked it out last year at E3.
Yeah.
Bethesda had, they often do like a showcase that's all of their games back, back to back to back, and you check out these little demos, and then they usually at least have one or two of them playable after you see the presentations. And last year I think it was like they showed us Elder Scrolls, which we basically slept through, Evil Within, and then Wolfenstein. And they had Wolfenstein playable on the back, and I played it for, I don't know, 20 minutes. And I mean, the shooting seemed totally fine, but I didn't
Yeah.
get a lot of the characterization that you were describing. It mostly just seemed like, yep, this is it's a shooty game, which that's what works best when you're playing, like a demo on a show floor at E3. That I come away with it as like, well, it seems like a pretty good shooty game, but got none of the what sounds like the more interesting stuff that at least will give it a little more character that you got to check out, which is obviously what happens when you can just like, hey, play the first 2 hours. Considering that game is
Yeah.
coming out in May?
April, I think. Actually, late
April?
April. Yeah.
Man, that game is close. That game came out of nowhere. I didn't forgot
It
that game
did.
existed.
So did I. And when they sent me the invite for it, I was like, oh, right, this game. So yeah, I had like zero expectation going into it. And I ended up, it was one of those things where the time passed quickly, which is always a good sign when you're playing a game. Like if you wake up, you look up and you're like, oh shit, it's like 2.5 hours after I sat down. Okay. that's usually a sign that a game is pretty good at getting you into its world. And I
Mm.
was surprised how well it does it. There's a couple of moments in there that don't work as well as the stuff I just described. Like there are a couple of scenes that feel a little bit forced, but most of what I played I really liked, and the shooting I thought was well done. Like the dual wielding stuff works pretty well. The weaponry seemed pretty varied, and you know the for me, first person shooters tend to live and die by just how functional the AI is, and it seemed like the enemies were pretty good about like using cover and using some decent tactics to try and not just let you camp out and shoot them in the face. So you know, it seems like that game could be good. I definitely want to play a lot more of it. So
Part of the defining aspect of those teams when they were at Starbreeze was that they use the first-person perspective in some interesting ways, or at least show a real commitment to staying in the first person and finding ways to make game mechanics that either become put into third person or done it in ways that like sort of break immersion that is possible from just staying committed to first person. Does Wolfenstein play with that at all from what you saw?
not a lot. I mean, definitely not as much as something like Riddick does. For the most part, the first-person stuff was pretty straight ahead, like, go shoot those dudes. There was not a lot of first-person, kind of playing with the camera and playing with what the character is doing during those sequences. Like, usually when there's character stuff going on, they are not afraid to zoom out and show, Blazkowicz, like, as a character in with everyone else. So maybe there's more of that as the game goes along. There's not much in those beginning hours.
Well, color me a little bit more interested than I was before. That game is just, I'm sure they are going to ramp up, our awareness of it, but that game continues to be just sort of I keep forgetting that existed sort of game.
And now
which is a pleasant surprise. Like a pleasant surprise not to know a whole lot about a game as we're nearing its release date. I find it hard to complain about that, given how exposed everything else usually is.
And if you pre-order now, you can get into the Doom beta, so that's exciting, right?
Yeah, whatever that means. I get why they're doing that. That makes sense. It's a shooter. It's coming out this year. Doom is probably coming out next year. But what the hell is even that Doom game? Like, what am I supposed to get excited about?
Is it not Doom 4 anymore? Is it just Doom? Are they just calling it the Doom? Like, what is the deal with that game? I have no idea.
Yeah, at least if they're doing a invitation to the beta, we can be sure that we're going to see it sometime in the next 6 months. Whether that happens through a really a cover on Game Informer really soon, or just a straight up E3 reveal. We're going to see Doom pretty. I guess it could be as late as QuakeCon, but I would suspect.
When is QuakeCon?
August, I think.
I feel like they would start showing it at E3, right?
I feel like we would see it at E3, probably a reveal before that, and then you get a trailer at one of Jeff Keighley's pre-E3 shows,
right?
And playable multiplayer beta in August at QuakeCon, and then details on when that beta is actually rolling out later in the year.
Yeah, that seems
reasonable.
Seems likely. So,
I've been playing I've played 2 or 3 hours, maybe more than that, of I'm never gonna know how to pronounce this. Dopenangra, sure, let's just say it's that.
Okay.
This Vita game that is a cross between sort of a visual novel in which you were just sort of reading text and making some conversational decisions, and Ace Attorney, a series that I'm familiar with in concept but not in practice. I have not played more than an hour or two of any Ace Attorney game, although I've been meaning to buy the compilation that went out on iOS. And it's interesting. It's kind of like how I mentioned when I briefly brought it up when Kara was on the show. It's super anime, and in that way, at this point, I wish I could. I'm actually going to look and see if I can turn off the dialogue, the voice acting, because I just find it it's really slow and it's not good. So I constantly just want to hit the skip button. I've read the text far before they have finished speaking it, and so I just keep skipping past it. But regardless, so the setup of the game is that there is this amazing prep school. It's and it's where the Ultimates go to, and the Ultimates is not a superhero or anything like that. It's mostly the top person in various sort of categories, and it's not just traditional categories like math, science, and things like that. There's like the ultimate baseball player, the ultimate pop sensation, the ultimate programmer. You know, you basically get all these different archetypes that aren't your traditional archetypes. They fall into like different skill brackets, and these people are invited to come to this one school together. And most of the students in this school are these ultimates. They're like the best of the best in whatever category they fall into. The character you play as, Makoto, is the ultimate lucky student, which is to say, every term they invite one regular super average person that has no extraordinary talents whatsoever. And
this is the most Japanese sounding fucking thing you've ever described.
I know. Just stick with me.
All right.
And so they're all invited, and they get there, and you get there. Makoto gets there a little bit early, and he falls asleep, and then he wakes up, and then everyone's there, and you get introduced to all the characters, and you very quickly find out that you've actually all been like boarded up into this school. There's no way out. The only way that you can get out is if you kill another person and get away with it. And you get away with it by there being a class trial. And the trial is when it goes into sort of the sort of ace attorney elements. And so you spend the game sort of split into two different sections. Like there are sections where you're just talking to folks and looking around the environment, which is where you're sort of gathering elements. And oh man, I'm going to use some really embarrassing terminology here. As you gather evidence, you are gathering what they call truth bullets.
Mm-hmm.
And these truth bullets are what you use to, in the trial, to shoot down contradictions in evidence. And it's the way this is all contextualized sounds so dumb, and it absolutely is. But if you strip away kind of all that stuff, what it is you build up relationships with these characters that uncover certain parts of evidence that you can then use in the trial. And in the trial part, you know, stripping away frickin' truth bullets and all of this nonsense, you are looking at language, you're looking at sentences and trying to find contradictions in logic and using evidence that you found to display those contradictions in front of a crowd. Like the first trial that you go on, everyone thinks that you're the killer. And the problem is, the way the trial is set up is that if the group accuses the wrong person of being the killer, everyone else dies. So there's an interesting setup of, you know, you didn't do it, and unless you convince everyone that you're innocent, they're all going to die. You'll get out of here, you'll leave the school, but everyone will die with you. And so, you know, a lot of the trappings are sort of weird, and you kind of just have to suck it up and move on. But the actual mechanics themselves of like having these relationships with these characters, you know, you give them presence and stuff like that, which gives you certain skill sets, and those skills like allow you to do certain things when you get to the trial section. Like all that stuff, like it is really interesting. It's just you have to get over things like truth bullets, and it's really hard to get over things like truth bullets.
Wow.
Oh right. Oh no. And so the headmaster is a talking bear.
That what?
Not like a
man.
not like a live bear, but like a it's like a bear thing. It's
yeah.
They kill
Patrick,
people.
This sounds patently insane.
Yeah, which is actually like a large part of why people were pushing it on me. Like I played 999 in VLR, and I did really like both those games, and both those games are super Japanese, like in the ways that, you know, and I don't mean that to be condescending. I just mean it in the way that when people are normally turned off to certain sensibilities of Japanese characterization and settings, that's what 99 in VLR, that's what Dobanangra is. Those games are very much that, and that is, I think, totally a hump to get over to appreciate some of the interesting stuff that it is doing, because it is just goofy to the nth degree. Now, the game's not super self-serious. It is dark. There's a lot of dark humor, So the reason there are things like truth bullets and stuff like that, like the game is like aware that there is kind of a playfulness to all of this, and everyone dies in really ridiculous ways. Like I don't want to give away too much about what happens, but like okay, so one of the moments during the trial, like as you're doing your closing argument, is it turns into a rhythm game where you're tapping X to argue, and then you tap triangle to dismiss the arguments. I don't feel like I'm convincing you. I don't feel like I'm convincing Alex Navarro to play this game.
So before I ask my last question here, I just want to say to everyone in the chat, everyone who's saying, "Oh, this doesn't sound that crazy," what the fuck are you people playing? What are you playing that this sounds like mundane in any possible way? What are you doing with your time that this sounds normal? Just throwing that out there. Are you enjoying this?
A truth bullet at you, Alex Navarro.
Are you enjoying this, Patrick?
I am.
Okay.
I need to play deeper to have a better articulation of. So it seems like part of the appeal is similar to 999 and VLR, both games that function. They're part of a Zero Escape series, and the Zero Escape series has a very similar premise in which a bunch of people are locked into a room and told that the only way out involves a lot of murder. And so a lot of the fun of these games is figuring out why you're there, who's going to kill who. You know, it's basically just like it's an anime whodunit. So if you can get into the idea of a whodunit, then, you know, at that point it's just a matter of can you get into the specific trappings of this kind of whodunit. It really is just a murder mystery that you get to become a part of and have some influence over. 99 and VLR both had really, really elaborate endings and a lot of different endings. It's not clear to me if that is the case with Doppanagra, but it at least has a very similar premise of, look, lots of people are going to die, and then you get to be a part of sort of uncovering the evidence and figuring out how that stuff works out. So the trial stuff is super cool, like in an Ace Attorney way. Like it feels really satisfying to look at an argument, realize, nope, they're wrong, and they're wrong because of X, and then presenting that evidence and moving along. That part is really cool, and you know, appeals to the sort of, you know, logic and reasoning part of my brain, even if you have to sort of ignore some of the hashtag truth bullets.
Yeah, you know, whatever. I'm all for insane games, and, you know, I have certainly played my share of weird Japanese games over the years and enjoyed them, you know, sometimes because of or in spite of the weirdness. This seems like one that might be a little more than I can deal with, but I can... If you're having fun with it, I mean, parts of that sound cool. I don't necessarily... To be fair, there were parts when you were explaining like that initial run of things you were trying to explain where all the words just kind of like melted into a weird mess that I couldn't quite sort out into actual things that made sense in my brain. But the parts that I was able to pull out sounded like they could be fun, could be interesting. There's a bear. I like bears, so that, you know, maybe there's something to that.
And that bear kills people. The bear is very aggressive. He likes killing people.
Bears are not your friends. They're wild animals. Why would you make a bear a teacher when a bear... in its nature, it has the big claws. It'll kill you. That's what it does.
Yeah, I recently, Katie asked me like what I was playing. It's like, oh, what game are you gonna play tonight? I was like, I'm gonna play Donkey Kong, because she'll ask me like what the games I'm playing and like what they're about, and like I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do what I just did now. I couldn't do that to her. I feel like she might have just broken the Vita. She might have just thrown it across the room.
What does that tell you about what you're doing with your time, that you have to keep these secrets from your
Alex,
wife?
I'm trying to play the games that no one else will play. I'm trying to go, you know, I'm being a journalist. I'm going into the war zone that is anime. If anime is for jerks, someone needs to be the jerk. And I'm
not
jerk
saying
right
you're
now.
not a jerk. I'm not you're trying to present here that you're somehow like jerkless, but I'm just saying, if it's honestly for the work, you would be able to tell your wife about it. There's a secret shame inside of you, isn't there?
There is, because then I'd have to say truth bullets.
Yeah.
At least I'm paid to say it right now.
Be one of the unashamed, Patrick. Admit what you are. Admit that you're a huge jerk.
I'm an anime editor.
Yes! We've done it!
Fuck.
Feel it. Feel that inside of you. Let that out. Let the world know what you are. Come out of the closet, Patrick. Come out as an anime editor.
God damn it! I know what it feels like to be Brad. It's a dark
Yeah.
feeling. It's a
Welcome.
dark feeling.
Welcome.
I also played some Donkey Kong. I actually did play some Donkey Kong. It seems pretty good. It's super early. I've only played 4 levels. But man, is it gorgeous. Once you start playing it, you kind of get over the hang-up that I think a lot of people had, which was acknowledging that the last Donkey Kong was better than it seemed like any retro had to produce a platformer that excellent. But did anyone want to see them make another platformer? Not really. But you know what? They made a really good one.
Yeah.
And it seems like this is a really good one as well. And part of what I like about it is that Donkey Kong has real friggin' weight. Like he's just a heavy character, and
He's
it's just
gorilla.
Yeah, well, and it's just most games don't have you playing a character with real weight. Platformers tend to involve like very light characters that have really bouncy physics that allow you to have a lot of mobility when you're playing. And Donkey Kong isn't like that. Both as a game and as the character that you're playing as, he has real weight. He has like momentum is a huge part of being able to execute your moves properly. You know, there's a lot of like using running forward and then like hitting X to roll, and there's just a real weight to the character that takes a long time to get used to. Where a lot of my traditional sort of experience with platformers is actually getting me into trouble with the way that they've set up Donkey Kong. But I like that, and it's in a good way. It feels really different than what you would expect. And man, if nothing else, if people don't play this game, although I think you should, the music is unfriggin' believable. Is it David Weiss, right, or Wise?
Might be, yeah. I don't know.
I think so. He has produced just a stellar goddamn soundtrack for this game that even 3 stages in is unbelievably good and like probably better than the game. And I only say that because the game seems pretty damn good and the soundtrack is just that great. But I need to play more, and Donkey Kong is also me venturing into a game that I just like platformers a lot, and I also just suspect that very few people are going to play this game.
Yeah.
The curse of the Wii U.
But now, how far are you into it? Because the thing people have repeatedly cited about that game is that it is extremely difficult, especially as you get further and further into it. Now, I don't necessarily count that against it, but some people have said it is frustratingly difficult. Some people have said it's exactly the kind of difficult it should be. I don't know who to believe. Patrick, tell me what to think.
Well, I haven't gotten far enough to weigh in, unfortunately. It's still super early. I just got into, the first 3 stages, or the first 4 stages. I'm about to get to the first boss, are about basically levels that introduce you to the different side characters. So,
right.
In addition to having Diddy Kong, and Diddy Kong was the only side character in the last game, he functions both as an extra life, and that you get without actually dying and going back to a checkpoint. And he also had this jetpack so that you could kind of hover over areas. And it's really important because Donkey Kong is heavy as hell and can't make real big leaps. So having the ability to hover got you out of really tough situations. And that if you got used to using that extra life a lot, the moment that you didn't have him made the game tremendously more difficult. And in this new one, you also have Dixie Kong. I believe that is what the girl's name is. She does basically a double jump. But not an actual double jump. She kind of like whips up into the air so that you can get additional vertical distance on jumps. And then you have Cranky Kong, who allows you to do like a pogo stick, sort of like in DuckTales, that allows you to traverse locations that would, like a pit full of spikes is something you can then bounce across, even if there are no platforms for you to do that any other way. So the first world is basically about introducing you to those guys and what those characters function as, because you'll come across those barrels that unlock those characters in each level, but you can also buy them using the game's like coin currency and bring in whoever you want into a stage. If, like, for example, there's a puzzle piece you're having trouble getting to, that would be a lot easier if you had access to one of those characters. So,
Right.
like, the first world is basically just tutorializing without actually having a functional tutorial. So I don't think I'll know till a little bit later. But the last Donkey Kong got crazy difficult in the last couple of worlds, and I really enjoy that. Like, I'm happy for this game to cranky Kong up. I tried to make a joke. It didn't work.
Yeah.
This is what anime does to you.
Yeah, it ruins your brain.
It ruins your brain. Donkey Naga,
This
Donkey
is your
Naga.
this is your brain on anime, and it's just a pair of giant anime eyes on your brain.
So I'm gonna play more Donkey Kong. I'm trying to play as much as I can on my TV, but also I love the fact that it's remote play or whatever, off TV play, whatever you want to call it on the Wii U.
And it doesn't use the gamepad while you're playing on the main screen, right? Like, it doesn't do anything with that.
No, it actually asks you at the beginning, interestingly enough, which one you want to play on, if you're going to play on the TV or on the gamepad, and then it just stops displaying stuff on the other one. It just says, nope. So, like, when you're playing on the TV, there is literally nothing on the gamepad. There's no map. There's no just spinning bananas. There is absolutely nothing. They just say, look, we want you to play the game, and then you just choose the display that it shows up on. And it's a gorgeous game, so I want to try and play a bunch of it on my TV. But you know, we're probably going to try and finish up House of Cards this weekend, and doing that with Donkey Kong on the gamepad sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Because I can't play Dompanagra because there's these anime voices just yelling at me the whole time.
So you're saying the best way to watch House of Cards is while playing a video game and only half paying attention to it in the background?
I feel like that allows you to look over some of the weird plot holes of House of Cards, as fun of a show as it is.
Yeah, fair enough. I only have limited experience with that show at all.
You need to watch it. It's really good. It's Kevin Spacey, man. It's worth it just for him, even if you shouldn't think about the story too much.
My girlfriend doesn't care about political shows at all, except for Veep. That is the only one she thinks.
It has nothing to do with politics.
I know, and she also doesn't like Kevin Spacey that much. So
okay, that's a problem. That show is Kevin Spacey.
It's kind of a combination of things she doesn't really like, so it's been hard to convince her to watch any of it. But I don't know. Right now we've got True Detective, and that's keeping us warm at night. So
I just slit your wrists after every single episode of that because. Dark.
By keeping me warm at night, it makes me feel cold, dead, and alone. So yeah, I know that's definitely what I'm looking for in my TV these days.
Just shooting off truth bullets about these games, right, Alex?
That's what we're doing. Truth bullets. Hashtag.
That's the official hashtag of this morning's show. All right, well that's all I've been playing. I didn't play Thief. South Park comes out next week, right?
It comes out on Tuesday.
Man, video games are back.
They are, man.
And then Dark Souls 2, and then, Titanfall. Anyway.
So many games.
Let's see. Let's move on to, if you want to start dropping questions in the chat, we can then move on to answering some questions as well. Let's see. New Tony Hawk game.
Coming to mobile.
Premiered exclusively on Larry King Live.
And also on Bloomberg, despite the fact that they said that. Yeah, because that's where all the Tony Hawk fans go for their news is Bloomberg and Larry King Live, right? Like that makes sense demographically.
Even Tony Hawk is not that old. I know
he's like
old,
46,
but he's not to debut on Larry King Live old. And that I'm sorry, Tony.
That press release was amazing, by the way. I don't know if you saw that.
No.
There's some really choice quotes in there,
so
and just that interview.
It's coming exclusively to mobile. Does it say anything about the game? I didn't see anything about that.
You control a character who skateboards.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, I guess, you know what? It makes a certain amount of sense that if they're bringing back Tony Hawk, they would do it on iPhone and iPad as opposed to a full-blown console re-release or something like that. Extreme Sports, I think, might be a tough sell in the $60 market these days. But you know what? Wouldn't be shocked if they put it on iPhone and iPad, and then, whoops, 6 months from now, Xbox Live Arcade and PlayStation Network are getting versions of that game too.
Please, the Xbox Live Marketplace. It is no longer the arcade.
Yeah, okay, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
Who asked for Cell Damage HD? Who possibly thought that they... Yeah. You didn't see
Really?
that? Yes.
No. Oh, why? Why is that happening? Who who
I have
who said that
no
was a good idea?
idea.
Oh my God.
Toronto-based Finish Line Games. I don't even know if that's the original developer. Yeah, they're bringing it back to PS4, PS3, and Vita. I mean, who? Why? I don't have any fond memories of Cell Damage
Who
whatsoever.
does?
Like, I don't. I'm not even saying it was like a horrible game, but like it was just a game that existed, and then it stopped existing,
I
and then
remember I remember it was a launch game for what? The Xbox?
yeah,
The original? I
yeah.
remember when Jeff got his original Xbox when they first launched that stuff, and I remember going to his house. He was like, "Hey, let's play some of these dumb Xbox games," and he put that one
hmm
on, and the whole time we just sat there silent, just looking at it, going, "Well, I mean, I guess it looks okay." Just
Yeah.
that was it. That was the crux of our entire Cell Damage conversation. I don't know if we've ever spoken of it since.
I don't. I just when that press release came across my inbox, I was just if you made a list of like 10,000 games, 10,000 games that people wanted an update to, I don't think Cell Damage would have been on that list.
I don't. I can think of right now, if I sat here and did the work, I could probably come up with at least 300 games I would rather they do an HD update of before I would even start thinking about Cell Damage.
I mean, I guess, you can see the logic in there are not a lot of vehicular action games. Twisted Metal kind of, I think, put the last nail on the coffin of that genre. So why make a new one when Cell Damage already exists? I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Fine. Maybe now the audience is properly tuned to what Cell Damage was trying to bring to the table years and years ago. Like maybe they think now is the time, the iron's ready to strike. This is Cell Damage's year, the year of Cell Damage, 2014.
Sore Marine saying, next up, Konami Crazy Carts HD.
I'd
Yep.
rather have that. I would literally rather have that.
At least there are weird characters in Konami Crazy Kart. Give me Sonic Racers HD.
Yeah.
Just so I have that soundtrack again.
Ugh.
Everybody's Supersonic Racing. Keep your feet right on the ground. Everybody's Supersonic Racing. There's no time to mess around. I know the lyrics to the Sonic R soundtrack.
Apparently, which is surprising and worrying for an equal measure.
Well, that's what anime does to you. It unlocks weird parts of your brain that you thought you had. Whatever. I may have, in my teenage years, blasted the Sonic R soundtrack because it was ironically really good and also kind of really good too. So, no shame there.
You have a lot of friends back then?
Look, we don't need to get into the details of my life.
This has been a really dark show. I don't know how that happened.
Lego movie. No.
Yeah.
Minecraft movie.
Minecraft movie, which is not Lego, but sure.
But it's coming
whatever.
from the producers of the Lego movie, not the writer-directors who did Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and those
Plum
films.
High.
But did you see the Lego movie? You of
I
anyone?
haven't yet. That's another thing I've been trying to convince my girlfriend to go see, but I think I finally worn her down on that one, and we may go see it this weekend. I want to see it.
I hear it's really good.
There has been no one, even the most jaded assholes I know who are always looking to find things like this and shit on them, have said, no, Lego Movie is really good. And that is so surprising to me. But, I mean,
I don't know. Did you see Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs?
Yeah, I thought it was cute. I thought it was funny.
Okay.
It didn't leave a super lasting impression on me, but I liked it. So I don't know. I mean, I guess, in the case of Lego Movie, it sounds like they have made it weird enough so that it doesn't just feel like a toy commercial, which is probably what that movie needed to be. Have you seen it?
No.
Okay. Are you going to?
I want to see that Frozen movie though. I hear that movie's pretty good.
I think I'd rather see the Lego Movie personally. I don't really like musicals or music stuff that much.
What
That's
about
just
like a heavy metal Frozen? No?
I don't know. I mean, if you get the right bands to do the soundtrack, maybe. I don't know.
I like that you thought. I thought you at least thought about it.
Yeah, I thought about it for a second.
Well, either way, a Minecraft
Minecraft's
movie
a movie.
makes 100% sense, and attaching the guys that put together a Lego movie, a movie that should not have been any good. There was no reason for a Lego film to have been anything but complete exploitative trash.
Right.
And yet turns out to be fantastic, and another reason for Chris Pratt to show everyone why he is the best. Those seem like, those producers found good talent for the Lego movie. They seem like the right guys to do Minecraft, because I bet a Minecraft movie could be friggin' crazy. And it has the same sort of setup that the Lego franchise had in terms of a film, which is that you can basically make anything. It's just an adventure film. It's just a matter of coming up with, a good adventure film. And Minecraft, I mean, it would look kind of cool probably in big CGI form. So, could be good.
So now the question is it going to be a movie that takes place inside of Minecraft, or is it going to be about some sort of kid in the real world who's like a savant at Minecraft, and he has to go to like the World Minecraft Championships, and it's like a road movie like The Wizard? What do you think?
I don't think so. I think you just make that movie CG.
I know.
You just move on with your life.
Yeah.
But I'm with
the
you.
CG movie.
I'm with you.
Let's remake The Wizard, Patrick. Let's make that our mission in life.
Okay. I'm fine with that. Let's go to Kickstarter and not have the rights to The Wizard and just say that we want to do a homemade Wizard remake.
Yeah, it'll be great. We'll get Jenny Lewis to a cameo. It'll be perfect. Beautiful.
Yeah, I like me some Jenny Lewis. There's a trailer for the new Walking Dead episode, but I didn't watch it.
I did.
Does it look good?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like they are continuing the story that they have set up in the first episode. But they don't show too much. I'm
more interested in the further adventures of the Wolf Among Us than I am in The Walking Dead right now. Do you share that?
Maybe a little, but only because The Wolf Among Us is a little deeper into its story at this point than Season 2 of The Walking Dead is. I mean, the first episode of The Walking Dead is a lot of table setting.
Sure.
There's not a whole lot of progression other than just to say, here's what Clem's life is like now, and here's what she's now going to be thrust into. So I think this is the kind of the test to see whether that story is more interesting or not, because they actually have to kind of progress it from here. Yeah,
definitely curious. Because it's coming out next week, that's why I didn't look at the trailer. I put up on the site and was just like, well, I can wait a couple of days. Definitely looking forward to playing it, but I just find myself a little more engrossed in the world of The Wolf Among Us than I am in The Walking Dead. But maybe it is because it's table setting. I mean, my favorite episode of Season 1 of Walking Dead was not the first episode. So
yeah, the first episode. Actually, The Walking Dead, or the Wolf Among Us, is the first of those games that has had, like, I think a first episode that was, at least thus far, the strongest of the thing. Because the second episode of Season 1 of The Walking Dead was really, really good.
Yeah, that was the cannibal episode, which basically felt like, they took what should have been a really boring, generic horror premise and put a really, really fun twist on it in a way that, you can't really do that too many times, but the way they did do it was terrific. So I'm just curious to see where they take Clementine from here. Like, it's just like, put her in another harrowing situation. Like, you can only get away with that so many times. I'm just curious to see how they handle her development as a character, for sure.
They need to grow her character over the course of this, because like that was sort of the beauty of the first one, was that you saw her kind of learn things and become something a little bit stronger in the first season. And this season it's like, okay, cool, she's kind of morose and really jaded and sad all the time, but she kind of has to go somewhere from there. She can't just kind of be in peril all the time and have all the adults sort of making decisions around her. Like, if you're going to make her a playable character, you need to do more with that. So here's hoping.
Yep.
There are many personae coming to North America, Patrick. As the anime editor, I feel like you should be most excited about this.
Yeah, I've not played Persona 4, but it is on my Vita. It is on my list. They confirmed that like the 3 spin-offs, like Persona Q, which is on 3DS, some rhythm game, and the sequel to the fighting game, or the upgraded version of the fighting game, those are all coming out staggered before Persona 5, which comes out winter 2004 in Japan, which that could easily mean...
You mean 2014?
Early 2015.
Yeah.
My guess is we see Persona 5 over here like right around this time or shortly thereafter, a year from now.
And on the PlayStation 3, no less, which, I mean, I guess that's not surprising, but, it's sort of like those guys really like their slightly out-of-date hardware, don't they?
They do, and it makes sense, because you're talking about like I don't know what the PlayStation 3 user base is offhand, but like we're talking 10 to 20 million PS4s a year from now versus like 100 million like PS3s. Like they want to
Yeah.
sell the most amount of copies, so that's part of the reason these games come out so late and it works for them. Um, but I can't help but hope that maybe Sony would just be like, hey, look, we'll pay for it and we'll port this to the PS4 or the Vita or something like that, so that you don't have to rehook up your PS3. But people care about that series so much that they can kind of get away with what they want to do and just kind of keep on trucking. Um, and I'm gonna try and play Persona 4 over the summer. It is on my list. People do really like that game, and I would like to find out what it is one way or the other on my own at some point. I've come this far. I might as well keep going.
Yeah. And it will take you a good chunk of that summer to get through. So, I
Yeah,
wish
it's
you
like a
best of luck with
60-hour
that.
game or something like that.
It could be longer than that if you take the time.
Yeah. Sony Santa Monica laid off like 40 to 60 people. I'm not sure if they put out the exact numbers. Their a new IP or just an IP was canceled. They're the God of War team by and large. So it's not like the studio was shuttered, but whatever they were working on is not something they'll be coming out. I
These
can
are hard
say
times, Patrick.
I can say I had heard some troubled things about that project. I'm not really at liberty to say much more than that, but I'll say it's not a huge surprise.
Yeah.
That this happened, but it's always a bummer to see layoffs, and then it's a bummer to see that it was a new IP from a studio that is otherwise only known for God of War. Not that I don't like the God of War games, but I don't just want another God of War game. If they're going to make another one of those, you really hope it's a reinvention from the ground up of what that is, what that series can be, as opposed to just the continuing adventures of Kratos against some angry gods.
That's the thing. I don't think you can make another God of War game with Kratos. And I realize that's like a weird thing to say, but I mean, that character is so beyond over and done with at this point that I can't imagine what another God of War story featuring him would even be. So, at this point, I'm kind of ready for them. If they're going to make another one, find some other character, find a different story, do something different with it, because Kratos' routine has officially gotten super old, and it's time to move on. So,
yeah, Baby Choo Choo in the chat says Goddess of War. That would be a really easy way to spin the whole thing on its head, and still, because obviously a God of War game is going to be it's going to be an action game. It's going to be it's going to be what it is. It's a matter of what can you do to shake up that formula so that it still feels fresh, and placing a woman or a goddess or whatever you wanted to do in that role would be one way to do it. That's not enough. Like just slapping a
you can't just make
lady there is not enough.
With a lady, that doesn't quite work.
But maybe at least a different character, whether it's a woman or otherwise. Like maybe someone with a little more nuance. Not that you need a real complex story as is the solution to God of War. I don't know what the solution is. I just know that I don't want to play another one of those games as it is. So whatever they need to do to shake that up, if it is true, if it is true that they're working on another of those, I just assume that they're going to play the safe bet and make another God of War game. Hopefully they do something, a little more substantial with it. So we'll see.
Whatever it is, just no Kratos, for the love of God. That's all I ask.
Yeah, I mean, he could be, he could still be present in the storyline.
Make him the final boss. Make him the bad guy.
Sure.
Make Kratos the dude you have to kill at the end of the next God of War. That I'd be fine with. Just don't make him the guy you have to play, because holy shit, I don't want to do that again.
Nintendo's shutting down online play on the DS and the Wii in May,
which not feels surprising.
No, but it feels awfully soon.
Yeah, I'm wondering. That's the question I have. Is like, I'm wondering how much use those servers are even getting at this point. Like, I imagine people are still playing Mario Kart, and there are probably some select DS online titles that people are still playing. But what else is there?
I think it's unfortunate that they wouldn't at least keep a couple of the the games that people are still playing going, like Mario Kart, Smash Brothers. Like, why they wouldn't include those games as exemptions, I think, is unfortunate, because this is something that's out of the control of the players. That if they are still enjoying these games, they're basically told, like, sorry, go buy the next one. Obviously I'm not taking into consideration the costs to maintain this stuff versus maybe how many players are still participating, but it does feel a little early for them to be shutting that stuff off. Cynically, you've got a new Mario Kart coming out really soon.
Yep.
So are they trying to shuffle people onto that new one? Hey, go buy a Wii U, suckers. Or was this just the right time? I mean, it's shutting down in May. I think that new Mario Kart comes out in May.
Yes, it does.
So
it does in fact come out
May
in May.
20th. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's that seems not coincidental, and a little unfortunate. My guess is that where there's a will, there's a way. People will find out a way to make that stuff work through emulators and stuff like that, but that's not going to help the folks that just pop it in their Wii and want to play that game. So
yeah,
I realize it's a part of reality. Servers have to shut down eventually, but it sucks.
it's a brutal reality. But I mean, we're saying it's too soon. The Wii U's been out for almost 18 months at this point. I'm not surprised that they're trying to get people to move on. This is one thing that they are doing to make that happen. I have to imagine the number of people still playing online games on those particular systems is small enough that they feel it's justifiable. I mean, I know it sucks for people that are still playing Mario Kart Online. I was playing Mario Kart Online like as recently as December, just because I thought it would be fun to jump in that and try again and play against some people, and it was, But if they're gonna do it, they might as well do it at a time that is strategically significant for them, I guess. So yeah. I think it's dumb. I hate it when any company does this, but it was gonna happen eventually, so we might as well just rip that Band-Aid off now and just be done with it.
You're probably right. Outlast getting Whistleblower DLC, which is supposed to bring the story of Outlast to a close in April. I am looking forward to playing that.
It's a little distressing that they didn't bring the story to a close in the game that they released already. That they have to continue it with DLC. But I mean, whatever.
By the end of the game, they're trying to do world building and branch out the mythology in some ways. You get closure on a lot of what's happening in the story of Outlast, which is not very good. You don't play Outlast for the story. The story goes completely off the rails.
You play for the atmosphere.
Yeah, you play for the atmosphere, and the atmosphere gets terrible by the end because it's all lit up and you're in computer areas, and without getting into what happens, but it's not great. It's the worst part of the game. But horror in general is a genre that you just get used to the first 2/3 being great, and then the last third being terrible. Right. So Outlast was no different in that regard. But I want to play more of it, and the little graphic they released of some dude with a meat cleaver chopping up meat looks gross. So I'm looking forward to playing that, and it was cool that folks got that as the free game. Well, not free game, but the PlayStation Plus game last month on PS4 because it's a good game.
I downloaded it. I have still not had a chance to play it. I will do it eventually. I promise.
It's pretty short. It's like it's like 4 or 5 hours.
It's just one of those things where it's like anytime a game that I have to play comes along, I tend to forget that I have other games that I wanted to play, and then I don't remember that I have them until another game comes along that I have to play.
You should wait until we're still getting through the winter, but in a month from now, we're gonna hit spring. Spring is gonna bring a lot of storms.
Mm-hmm.
Wait till it's dark night, it's raining, then you turn on Outlast.
Let the thunderclaps ring out in the background.
That's my 100% favorite thing to do. Okay. One of the things I'm most excited about being back in the Midwest is the moment there's a storm.
Yeah.
I'd bust out that Friday the 13th box set, get some whiskey.
Yeah,
let the night roll.
I'm a huge wimp, so instead I turn on all the lights, turn the game audio way, way down so that none of the jump scares can really affect me, and then
I'll come over and we'll play Outlast together.
Oh no. You're gonna make me all scaredy. I don't like that.
Just want you closer, Alex. I just want you closer. I want to get the I want to infect you with the anime.
Ugh.
I'm gonna give you some dopanagra.
Keep your anime out of my body. Thank you very much.
I'm not sure there's much else to talk about. We'll see where it goes, but the European Commission and Europe in general is just a little more aggressive about going after certain business tactics.
Mhm.
They're investigating in-app purchases and
Really?
the potentially exploitative nature of some of them. The press release that they put out said they are looking into games advertised as free should not mislead customers about the true costs involved. Games should not contain direct exhortations to children to buy items in a game or persuade an adult to buy items for them. Consumers should be adequately informed about the payment arrangements, and purchases should not be debited through default settings without consumers' explicit consent. Traders should provide an email address so that consumers can contact them in case of queries or complaints. Interesting.
Interesting, and it also sounds like the kind of thing that will ultimately not really go anywhere.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to. I'm curious that a governmental body is looking into something like that.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
is
there are
usually
definitely there are dirtbag developers out there certainly that
Mhm.
have taken great advantage of this sort of thing, but I'm not sure that there's anything that really is illegal or untoward about any of that. It's just a business tactic, and it's kind of up to the people whose credit cards are attached to those things to say no, you can't spend money on those things unless you have permission or want to. So I guess I don't really understand. I mean, I understand that like some of that shit's a little shady, but like I'm not sure that this is the kind of thing that you can necessarily regulate well.
I don't know if that we should look at this as necessarily the end game being regulation as much as this is this puts dirtbags on notice. Like, hey,
Yeah.
Fix your business model. Stop being so exploitative. Like, find better ways for consumers to know what they're getting into. Better ways for kids. I think a lot of this is targeted at finding better ways to protect kids from doing dumb things or getting caught up in some of this stuff than adults that should know better or be more responsible with their own money. But I got no problem with a government body stepping in and at least threatening to slap them around. And if it changes over there, that's these are worldwide games. We would see changes over here as well if it ended up impacting sort of the fundamental game design of the businesses that are implemented. So I got no problem with the EU looking into that. I don't know if it was the EU, but it was also over in Europe that they were investigating, trying to push Valve to give you rights over the games you purchase digitally. I don't think that ended up going anywhere, unfortunately, but that stuff should be pursued, and that's at least in my opinion, not to get political, that is where you want government regulation, is to protect you in those ways.
I just think I think it's disgusting that the EU is wasting their time with this when they could be spending their time on something useful like regulating anime and keeping it out of the hands of our children. I think this is they're spending their time on the wrong thing. Get the anime out of my kids' hands. That's what I want. That's what I demand of the continent I don't even live on.
Alex, I don't know where your hands have been. That's not what we talk about on this show. I think that's gonna do it for us. I'll see if I can pull out a question. Hey Alex, where is Watch Dogs? Says the friend.
That's a valid question. I don't know. In development still?
Probably.
Probably. It will eventually come out in some form or another.
I'm
very quiet about that game.
Michael Bach, he asks, he's mostly just excited for South Park, but you are reviewing that game, correct? That's why you're playing it? Okay.
Yes.
Just double checking. Feder Dave asks, did either of you play much of the first two Infamous games? Second Son comes out this month as well.
I played a good chunk of the first one. I did not really play the second one much at all. I've actually probably played more of this new one than I have played of the second one. So,
are you looking forward to Second Son?
I am, actually. What I've played of it I liked a lot, and it looks genuinely pretty amazing. So I'm definitely going to spend some time with that one once it comes out. Cool.
Well, I'm looking forward to playing it too, and that is going to do it for Bombin the AM. What are you going to play this weekend? I guess more South Park, yeah.
Well, I think I'm pretty close to done with South Park, so I'm gonna finish that up. I programming note, there will be a new episode of the Power Bombcast that goes up later today.
Woo!
And big announcement. This month's episode is free for everyone.
Oh, you're such a nice guy.
Yeah,
It's because it's got anime in it, right?
Oh, tons of anime. More like this is the drug dealer mentality of give you a little taste and then we'll make you pay, exorbitant fees down the road. So, hopefully those who have not gotten to hear
Stop
the
giving
Power
away our
Bombcast
business
before.
model.
Just saying, if you haven't gotten to listen to the Power Bombcast before, now's your chance. And if you like it, you could be a subscriber on Giant Bomb, where lots of interesting subscriber content happens, including the Power Bombcast.
That's man, you're a great salesman.
It's obviously it's what I'm good at.
Yeah, I had a new episode, the first in a long time, of Spookin' with Scoops go up yesterday. The archive is already up on the site. I'm gonna try and get back in the habit of doing more of those. That was a ton of fun. I need to get this damn Blair Witch game out of my life. I have been replaying the first Blair Witch game in a couple of episodes, and I'm really close to the end, and I can't keep playing this game. So I need.
It's not a good game.
No, it is not. It's definitely not a good game. It's funny. It's interesting. It's certainly worth playing from my perspective, but it's I can't keep playing it.
I understand.
So I'm gonna keep playing. I'm gonna keep getting down and dirty with anime, shooting truth bullets all over my apartment this weekend, and then probably also play.
That's really gross, dude. Your wife's gonna have to clean that up. That's horrible.
Well, I'll get Cranky Kong to do it.
All right.
As I play through some more Donkey Kong, those are the two games I'm kind of focusing on right now. I downloaded Bravely Default to my 3DS, but I've got too many games to play right now. I will save Bravely Default for probably when I travel for GDC or PAX East. But yeah, that's going to do it. We don't have a guest lined up for Monday. The guest I was hoping to line up wasn't able to commit. We'll see if I can get someone last minute for Monday. But if not, you'll just have to deal with the both of us on Monday again. Probably talking about anime. You're gonna have to
talking about South Park because I still can't.
You're gonna have to deal with anime talk for like.
Can I just quit this show then? Can we just find another? Can Brad be the replacement since he's the senior anime editor at Giant Bomb? Can you guys just do that? Because I don't have the stomach for it. I'm sorry.
Maybe we should do the show on Tuesday. Maybe we should do this when you could talk about South Park.
I feel like that would be more useful.
All right, we'll talk off show. We'll figure that
Okay.
out. Maybe that'll make more sense. But all right, that's gonna do it. You have a good weekend, Alex, and I will talk to you on Monday and or Tuesday.
Oh.